I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, August the 24th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Starting early here this Monday, and they'll be on bunches by 7:30, 8 o'clock, looking for 6,500, so picking back up. But they do not mess around at Joplin Regional Stockyards, especially when they got hot temperatures there. They get right with it and get the business done. Bearish placements on Friday, cattle on feed report. We never can tell. It's hard to gauge on whether it's going to affect the market. That report comes out after the board closes, so I would say we're definitely going to see some result of that, and it should be down on your board starting out here on Monday at least. I don't know if it'll hold all day or not, but that was a very bearish report on those placements, and when you miss the placements, you're going to miss the on-feed inventories too. But the report that come out Friday had on-feed inventories August the 1st and 101.5% of the same time a year ago. That was bigger than what they thought, not by a lot, but when you miss the placements that far, it's going to affect that. But that is going to be a record, and I've told you guys 1,000 times, about every time they have one of these reports, something's a record compared to whenever, or as far as they go back to where the series started in 1996. But for August 1st inventories, that's an all-time record high. It's not big compared to other times of the year, but still. But your 101.5 was your actual. Your average guess was 100.9. Your placements, most of you, the average of your analyst guess, we're thinking they were going to be around 106. The average was 106.1, but the actual come in more than 2 points higher than the highest guess by any of those that are included in the bunch as far as the Urner Barry is concerned. But 111 come in. Wow, did they miss that? That's a big one. Marketing's come in a little bit smidge better than what they thought, at 99.4 compared to the average of the analyst guess, which was 99.1. But that's very bearish on those placements there. And we knew cattle were moving briskly, through July, and that's when it was for July placements there. We had a lot of cattle coming off the Flint Hills. Of course, we always have a lot of cattle coming off the Flint Hills. And it wasn't the big cattle. I thought it'd be a lot of 9-weight and 1,000-pound cattle, but your biggest gains was on 8-weight cattle in Nebraska and Kansas. Auction receipts were up all across the country about 7%, and we knew that cattle were moving quite a bit, but and your imports were up. Mexican cattle coming in from south of the border was up about 45,000 head. Which is, that's significant, but they're not putting those 300-pound Mexican imports on feed right away. Most of those were going out to pasture somewhere or in a starter yard somewhere, but we indeed had a lot heavier placements than what we thought. So we're going to see some bearish results from that, at least here early in the week. I would assume that your early sales in your big high volume feeder cattle auctions will be lower. I would expect the board to at least open sharply lower. We'll see what happens. Talking about the board, they came out last week and said that they are going to expand the daily limit moves on your live and feeder cattle contracts. And my gosh, we thought they were getting so big before. We remember the days when they were like $1.50 move. That was the limit. That was all they could do. But they just keep stretching them out. Now live cattle starting October the 5th are going to be able to go $4 one way or the other the first day, and then once they max that out, the next day it could go as much as $6. Wow. Feeder cattle can start out first daily limit move of $5 and then go to $7.50. And I tell you what, it's going to make those very volatile, or could. But hopefully with the expanded limits, we won't see things lock up several days and not be able to trade them, because those are huge moves right there. They keep raising or making it more expensive to handle these contracts, and I don't know, maybe they're trying to keep so many outfits from outside the industry playing, but we got to have those. You got to have speculators in the market to keep it fluid, and we definitely need all we can get because they're the only ones that ever buy the long side. But we need that. But as we see that those expanded limits on our futures contracts, it sure makes those options look a lot more valuable to hedge your risk with, or make a position even, because they could become more valuable there as you look at those options as a alternative to using just a full hedge or a full position one way or the other on your live and feeder cattle contracts. But let's look at the board for last week. Live cattle futures, Monday they opened up down 70 cents, Tuesday down 17, Wednesday back up 75 cents, Thursday off 45, and Friday down $1.22, with August live cattle ending the week at 105.80, which was down $1.80. October ended the week 167 lower at 108.55. August feeder cattle down 120 on Monday, up a half a dollar on Tuesday. Wednesday was up 32 cents, Thursday off 12 cents, and Friday off 50 cents, with August feeder cattle ending the week at 142.92, which was down $1 even right there. And we're not sure if we're starting to see a lot of hedging pressure yet. I mentioned last week that a lot of your prognosticators within the industry have been kind of telling people to just keep holding off on hedging their cattle because the board's been going up, and they've been really bullish on that. And then a lot of your big outfits, I've been told, have been waiting for the board to quit going up before they hedge their cattle so they get a better bite. We're not sure if all that hedging pressure has hit yet, but man, when it does, I tell you what, it's going to be a lot of pressure on our live cattle futures. September feeder cattle 144.85, and indeed some of these outfits may be hedging their calf purchasers too, which is going to hurt your feeder cattle futures. But September ended the week 144.85, down 172. Let's look at your fat cattle trade through Thursday of last week. A lot of cattle had moved cash through your 5-area feeding region, 94,500 head, and then had fairly significant trade, not just a few cleanup deals, but in Nebraska, fairly significant trade on Friday. So we're going to have a huge week on cash trade, negotiated cash trade within your 5-area feeding region. So that's kind of what we like. We like to see a lot of that, and I would say it'll be over 125,000, which is huge. But you look at that 94,500 through Thursday of last week, that compared with 69,700 through Thursday the previous week, and less than 18,000 the same week a year ago, when we were just kind of coming out of the results of that Holcomb fire. But look at live steers and heifers sold from 103 to 110 last week in your 5-area feeding region. That was $1 to $3 higher. You had a weighted average of 106.62 through Thursday, and that's not going to change a whole lot. Could go up just a pinch by the time we include the Friday sales in there. Dressed steers and heifers ranged in price from 165 to 174. That was $2 to $4 higher. Your weighted average through Thursday on dressed steers was 169.11. But you look at the trade that they had in Iowa, just 1,200 in Iowa confirmed on Friday, 109 to 109.25. That was close to tops. We saw a deal at 110, but that was towards the top of the price range. And dress sales from 168 to 172. Nebraska had 9,700 head because they were slow to trade. Didn't see a lot of dress trade until real late in the week last week. Right? We saw quite a bit of live trade, and it started early like it's been doing the last several weeks, but dressed, we didn't really establish a price on that till late. So Nebraska had more cattle to sell, 9,700 head confirmed on Friday, and likely more than that by the time they get them all rounded up. That'll be on Monday's report. But live sales 106 to 107.50, and dress sales from 169 to 172. Kansas, 1,900 heads, all 106 to 106.5. That was a buck and a half higher than the bulk of the previous week. Texas, just a few loads of cattle there at 106, but that was fully $2 higher than the previous week, and most all their cattle sold at 106. Box beef cutout values, the weighted average on last week's negotiated sales, all of them on your cutout values. That's all of last week's trade. Choice cuts, $222.90 on the weighted average. That was up $12.99 compared to the weighted average of the previous week. It's unbelievable how much control these packers have on the price that they are selling their wholesale product. Selects, $205.72. That was $9.40 higher than the previous week. Although we did get some resistance, they didn't move near as much as they've been moving, and the lightest movement they had for a long time, just 537 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Slaughter, 652,000 last week, 12,000 more than the previous week, but 5,000 less than the same week a year ago, and we just cannot seem to eclipse year ago numbers, and sometimes it appears that we do, but then when they come back with the actual information, they adjust it down, and in fact we haven't been able to eclipse year ago levels yet. But our head counts are pretty well caught up. Our weights are not quite caught up yet, but our head counts, I think we're in pretty good shape as far as market ready cattle and getting those moved through the system. Look at your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 143.40. That was up $2 even compared to the end of the previous week. We saw pretty good demand for feeder cattle. Some people got another cheese check, another 20% on top of what they got the first time on that CFAP deal. I heard reports that some guys were coming in and kind of getting aggressive on that because they had a little bit more money to spend. I'm not sure how much of that was true, but did hear those reports a few places. Fredonia Livestock Auction. Fredonia, Kansas is going to have their anniversary special on Tuesday, expecting 3,000 head there, and they'll have a good run of feeder cattle there, and likely a lot of weaned calves too. Your cash feeders last week, I said your real-time index was up $2. In your auction sales, they're $1 to $4 higher on yearling feeder cattle and long-time fall-born feeding calves. So good market on those straight through. The full advance was mostly on your steers. We didn't see as much on the heifers in most places, but your steers were sure $1 to $4 higher, and your heifers were sure steady to firm or a little bit higher there. We didn't have a real good test of calves yet. Some of those feeding calves went right along with those yearlings, not as far as price, but on trend they did. We did see some good demand for stalker type calves starting to come about. They noted in Oklahoma City, to Oklahoma National Stockyards, their stalker type calves were sharply higher, like $9 higher on the top end there. But a lot of places were not well tested. Let's talk about your big quotes late in the week there last week. Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond had another big sale. They just keep having big sales with loads and loads and loads of yearlings about every Friday, but they had another big sale this past Friday. Stick out deal I saw there. Jim Dawes sold some steers, 64 head of them, weighed 824 pounds at $144. That's in Richmond, Kentucky, not too far from the town square. How about St. Ange, South Dakota? St. Ange Livestock, my buddy Justin Tupper right there, he's starting to get some lighter weight calves in. Not sure if it's getting dry and they're having to move those up in that country or not. No truth to the rumor that Black Lives Matter had a big resistance there to your bikers at the rally they had last week that ended up early last week. But a lot of us were wanting to see some pay-per-view video footage if the Black Lives Matter riders tried to go in there and shut down the Sturgis rally, but it didn't happen. 66 head, 461 pound lightweight steer calves, St. Ange, South Dakota, $180. But the biggest quote that I saw anywhere late last week come out of Winter Livestock Auction in Winter, South Dakota, 69 head, 891 pound steers, $150.60. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.